morning, we've always been talking about cars, passenger vehicles. So I think two-wheelers and e-autos, three-wheelers, and even e-rickshaws, are an integral part of the Indian mobility scenario. So, Prashanth, I'll start with you on that. Just to hear your thoughts. I know it's very very early stages. So, Mr. Gandhi spoke about e-rickshaws or e-autos or two-wheelers accounting for well over 80% of the Indian mobility scenario. I mean, it's anybody's guess. Today the e-rickshaw market, which you see here, is a completely unorganized market, right? Anybody's guess what level of simulation or testing has been done, let's say for developing the e-rickshaws, looking at the electric motors, batteries, and the battery management system. So, I mean, do you think, there is an opportunity in India to bridge that gap, with bringing simulation and testing, into these unorganized sectors as well? Do you think there's an opportunity to bring them to the mainstream? What are your thoughts on that?
Certainly, yes. But if you look at Europe, they had 11 long years, and there were a lot of learnings from Euro 4 to Euro 5, Euro 5 to Euro 6. But we leapfrogged from Euro 4 to Euro 6, and just a span of 3 years. And this 3 years duration was a big challenge even to develop the product and put it onto use. So I think certainly many of the suppliers and also I'm sure OEMs had a limited time to even test for the full complete mileage of 160,000 or 200,000 vehicles. So many of us have made use of these simulation techniques to bring these products much faster to the market. But this also comes with some unknowns because Indian road condition, usage conditions are much, much different than what you see in the other parts of the world. Certainly.
That's very interesting you say that, going back to one of the points here that you had presented as well. Today, if you look at the Indian automotive market, a lot of the OEMs and even the tier 1 suppliers are moving away from the traditional manufacturing, selling business models to vehicle lifecycle management, right? So when we talk about vehicle lifecycle management, it involves right from the journey towards purchase, usage, maintenance, and even afterlife, or maybe even second life. A lot of the global tier 1s, Continental included, of course, are investing heavily in digital twins, right? Any component or an aggregate that is manufactured today probably has a digital twin that is running on a computer. So with predictive maintenance being the objective here, to understand how parts and aggregates function and how they fail, can you predict their life? This has a huge significance for the Indian condition because a lot of fleet operators, for them today, downtime is the biggest constraint, right? If they can eliminate or reduce or minimize downtime through, let's say, predictive maintenance or prognostics, that could probably help them save a lot of money and improve their overall efficiency as well. So as Continental, how do you see investments, or let's say in the digital twins, a scenario, prognostics and predictive maintenance, how do you see that scenario developing in the Indian market, Indian context specifically, and how do you see simulation and testing playing a role in that?
Okay. So one example I can talk about is in one of the slides, I had a coverage what's called connected technologies for improving the efficiency, which we are working. Already we have products in the other part of the world which uses the connected technology in terms of understanding the road conditions and accordingly calculate the load requirements on the engine so that it's more efficiently burnt. So that's one. And also this is used for in terms of predictive maintenance as well, so that you get an alert well in advance if there's any going to be failures, so the driver knows well in advance that where this needs to be taken.
Yamamoto-san, I'll come to you now. You spoke about thermal management. So now, obviously, when we move towards CAFE, BS6, and maybe increase electrification as well, the focus will also, shift probably towards energy management, right? So thermal management will become one part of the energy management pie. So how do you see, the transition from, as an HVAC or a thermal management systems supplier, how do you see the transition from thermal management towards energy management. Today, a lot of OEMs are already talking about, actively monitoring, energy in the vehicles. There are a couple of Indian two-wheeler companies who have already positioned themselves as energy management companies rather than electric two-wheeler manufacturers, right? So I think for OEMs, this is one of the biggest challenges. So how do you see, a company like Sanden Vikas or Pranav Vikas playing a role in helping them, move towards energy management from thermal management?
So there is a lot of challenge, as you know. But how we can help OEM is a total management, thermal management system. So there are several different thermal management system required for future vehicle compliant with BS6 or EV or FCV, whatever. So yeah, especially FCV, EV, electrical energy consumption, we need to optimize. Otherwise, that's why we are developing a total thermal management system, not only one AC conditioning system, but also battery thermal management system. And also we can traction motor management also we can include. So this kind of total thermal management system will greatly help OEM. Yeah, because especially in India, we are ready to support OEM for total management system for Indian condition or hot climate region. This is not true today. Yeah, lot of data in northern country, developed country, but it's not cannot be used for Indian climate. So this is the biggest challenge for us. But we can utilize also SAU organization to standardize testing condition in India, for example. This kind of activity also greatly help OEM for the transition period.
Interesting point on standardization, because today OEMs are also looking at collaborating with each other to develop electric platforms, right? Which is going to be shared across OEMs, across brands, and maybe even across vehicle segments as well. So as a total thermal management systems supplier, how do you see working with different OEMs who are sharing electric platforms, who probably will share some BS6 or Euro 6 or even technology aggregates as well. So how do you see the challenge of working with multiple OEMs sharing common platforms?
For the moment, it's not possible, I think, to share the whatever the condition or technology between the OEM, because it's a start of the competition today, I believe. But what we can help from the supplier side, the system supplier side, or component supplier side, is something SAE organization, which is consists of the OEM representative and academia and also public ICAT or ARI and also suppliers. This is a great platform to discuss standardization. Otherwise, each one by one OEM, so not possible, I believe.
I think Nabil, I think that's a clue from Yamamoto-san to have more policymakers probably in the next edition. Mr. Gandhi, I'll come to you now. You have a very unique position in this panel, because you have worked for many decades, with SIAM and having interacted with multiple OEMs at various stages. So whenever there is a discussion between, let's say, the government policymakers and the OEMs, it's always an interesting discussion. I'm going to be politically correct when I use that word. Very passionate discussions. Now, one of the key challenges there is always a thing that regulations or limits should be technology agnostic, right? Let's say, for example, CAFE regulations or BS6 regulations. You've got limits. It's really up to the OEMs to pick and choose technologies to comply with those limits. But with the electrification thing, that doesn't seem to be the case, because there is always an emphasis on one particular technology, right? So from your perspective, how do you see this challenge being addressed? Do you see a need for developing a portfolio of solutions, like a basket of solutions where the OEMs can pick and choose whatever they want based on segment applications? And do you see simulation and testing helping the OEMs reduce the huge investments that will be required for each individual technologies? What are your thoughts on that? From your interactions with all the OEMs over the years, how do you see this changing?
Basically, you are very correct that as an industry which has got large gestation period for any development of any new technology, we would always prefer stable roadmap with adequate time available for the development and validation. Because any solution, many times the policymakers say that, okay, you guys are exporting vehicles to Europe and to developed world. So why don't those solutions can be adopted in India? But as rightly pointed out, if you look at the Indian situation, they are very unique. Our road conditions, our climatic conditions, our traffic conditions are all unique. And therefore, no solution which is there in Europe can be just fitted into the Indian thing. And as far as the two-wheelers are concerned, there is no solution in the world even. Because we would be for the first time moving to what they call in Europe as Euro 5. In India, we call it as BS6. Norms ahead of Europe by 2 years and even ahead of Japan by 1 year. So therefore, from that angle, we need unique Indian solutions and technology agnostic. Yes, India is of course, again, our OEMs are really very, very good at the angle of frugal engineering because cost or affordability is another factor. A vehicle which can be sold in Europe at an X cost, we need to have it X minus almost or X by 2 to sell it in India. So looking at from all that angles, yes, simulation has to be there and that's what we are using it for, and to reduce the cost. In development cost is to be reduced, and it has to be agnostic, technology agnostic. Now, of course, as we understand that the government would like to push for the e-mobility, which we would, as per the e-mobility roadmap or the white paper submitted by SIM to the government, which very clearly says that we need to drive it by CAFE norms, which is one way of doing it. How you meet the CAFE norms? Definitely there are various technology options as was listed there. It could be hybrid, it could be plug-in hybrids, it could be any other technology options, or even going right up to hydrogen could be there. I am also organizing secretary for Hydrogen Association of India, where we look at hydrogen as the ultimate solution for the energy requirement. So that angle, I think the better route would be the market forces should decide the route and the government should drive it in a technology agnostic through CAFE norms and emission norms.
So just to add, I think the way forward is going to be a platform product. You can't afford to have one single product for every vehicle. So that's how we are able to compress within 3 years, bringing in Euro 6 technology to India. We had all the platform products, and only we had to do an application engineering based on the drive cycles, what you see here in India. In addition to this, I feel industry is also getting challenged as an automotive with the content of software increasing. Be it be powertrain, be it be connected solution, be it be autonomous driving, be it be a safe braking. The content of software is increasing. Maybe till last year it was 10%, 90% hardware, now it's going up to 30%. And we as an automotive, we are a brick and mortar company, we're not a software company. At the same time, software companies are entering into automotive space because they feel they have an expertise in the software and they are also expertise in speed. The software is known for speed, whereas automotive is not known for speed. It's known for specification, we have a domain knowledge of validation, technology, specification, type approval. So I think over a period of time, I think both has to cross. We have to, as an automotive, we have to learn from the speed of delivering, and also the expertise of software with the content increasing. And for software companies, for them to be successful, they need to learn the domain knowledge in terms of specification. And so that's the challenge what certainly we see at this point of time. Yeah.
I think in the interest of time, I'll try to summarize. One of the most important points which Guru Prasad made earlier, I know he stepped out, is white-labeled manufacturing. I think that is something the industry is waking up to today. White-labeled manufacturing of EVs, cars, even rolling chassis. I think one of the examples he had mentioned there as well is to have a rolling chassis, right, that can be shared across OEMs, across users. It's really up to the user to develop and design a top body that is going to be the differentiator. All your HMI, your interiors, anything that the customer can touch and feel will become the differentiator, whereas the electric rolling chassis or the platform will become common and standardized. I think that is where the investments are heading now as well. A lot of the shared mobility operators are increasingly coming to the tier 1 or tier 0.5 manufacturers and asking them to make vehicles according to their specifications. So I think the customer perceptions and expectations are going to change. It is not going to be a standard architecture. We've got traditional powertrain, chassis, body, and so on. I think standard platform architectures are going to evolve, and the differentiation is going to come from the electronic interface and the digital interface. So with that, thank you very much, my panelists. Prashanth, you wanted to add
last
something?
point if I had to add, today if you take a mid-size car, maybe Mercedes-Benz C-Class, it has about 80 to 100 ECUs. Right. Every system is controlled by an ECU. So people are moving away from ECU to what called as domain architectures, which will have a domain servers, one for powertrain, one for the chassis, and one for connected for the connectivity. And also the production is maybe after 5 years, these 3 servers may get combined into one. So then what happens? Today you are making money by designing an ECU and selling an ECU to OEM. Tomorrow all this will go away. Maybe you have to sell an software to an OEM. And that could be based on a royalty basis, or that could be based on one time. Then again, there's a lot of usage of software across platforms as well.
Now, indeed, software as a service, SaaS, is going to be the new revenue generation opportunity. So thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Please do interact with the panelists during lunch. It's been wonderful having you all here. Thanks once again.